Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Hopefully it's a good day for you. We will be getting started here now, and if others decide to join us, then that'll be great. I would like to let you know first off that this webinar will be recorded and posted on our website within 24 to 48 hours, just for those students who were unable to attend and for your reference later on. Some of you may know me already, but for those of you who do not, my name is Sarah Surrett, and I am an enrollment advisor here at Acadia. I'm also a proud alumni of the Theater Studies program, focusing on performance, of which I graduated from in 2019. So I will hand it over to Jeff there.
Sorry, Sarah, I was having trouble getting the mute button to unclick. Welcome, everyone. Some of you I have spoken with one or more times, so hi there. Some of you I've spoken with by email. My name is Jeff Hooper. I am a professor in the Math and Stats department. I'm currently the department head. And I'm probably a key person if you're having issues or questions as we roll through the summer to contact. So some of my contact details will be given later on, and anyway, I'll be discussing things. I'll turn it over to two other people I've got online here. Jensen, you want to go?
Yeah. Oh, hey guys. I'm Jensen. I've been at Acadia now for the past 4 years. I graduated from high school in 2016 and immediately went on to Acadia. I'm in the Math and Stats program, but specifically I'm in the 5-year integrated Math and Ed program. So I actually just graduated my Bachelor of Science degree this May, but I have 1 more year left to finish up my BEd. So I'll be returning in September for my final year of my 5-year program.
Hey folks, my name is Matt Van Bommel. I attended Acadia in the math department from 2011 to 2015. So I graduated in 15 with the Bachelor of Science with honors in math and stats. And then from there, I went on and did a master's degree in statistics at Simon Fraser University out in the Vancouver area. And what I currently do is I work as a senior analyst with the Sacramento Kings NBA team. And so I work as basically a basketball analyst, analyzing a lot of the different player data and the draft data, and helping the Sacramento Kings to make more data-informed decisions.
Okay, so what we're going to do here for the next several slides is kind of walk through the program. Now, I know the few of you I've talked to, I've probably told you this. I don't think I had slides at the time for sure. But I really want to walk through the different kinds of variations on math degrees, spend a little bit of time talking about the programs and courses especially, and a little bit of time talking about alumni. So first of all, this initial slide is really just a starting point here. So the big question I get asked is the 2 big questions I get asked when students come in. Question 1 is, what should I be taking? What courses should I be taking? Question 2 is often, what program should I be in? If you look through our calendar, it can be really confusing. We have a bunch of listings of different programs. There's rules in our calendar that sort of float in different places in the calendar, and I really don't blame you if you've looked at that if you looked through the online calendar and gotten confused. That's normal. So let's just start with the first key question here, which is about programs. Which programs for me, as I said, if you look through these things, there's a variety. The nice thing about our programs in math and stats is that they really all build around a core. So in first and second year, at least as far as the math courses go, you can't go wrong. Let's put it that way. The other courses you add into the degree tend to build around whatever else you're trying to do, if you're trying to do other things, or electives. The first decision that a lot of students start having to think about, and when you registered, you would have been have to choose whether you're going to do math and statistics as a Bachelor of Arts major or Bachelor of Science major. And really, they're very similar. The only difference, or the essential way to think of it, is what I have here in the bullet points, which is the Bachelor of Arts. They both have the same core of math courses. The BA degree tends to focus the electives more into art subjects. That includes things like English, French, German, Spanish, history, philosophy, sociology, economics, politics. The science one, students take more of their elective courses from science subjects. So for instance, biology, chemistry, geology, environmental science, psychology, nutrition, computer science, engineering, physics. But it really, and this is not something that I want to emphasize this, and I skipped it when we walked through the first bullet points. Changing between these different programs we talk about is really trivial. It's really just an email from me or Donna, our admin assistant, over to the registrar's office saying, this student would like to switch this program. And we have students who make multiple switches during their time at Acadia. So it's not a big deal if you think you've made a wrong decision. It's easy to fix. There's also two variations that pop up in the calendar: a standard, just a straightforward Bachelor of Science degree, or an honors degree. And I just want to deal with what that means. First of all, this is not something you decide in first year. Okay. It's really a question of how you deal with your upper 2 years of courses, your third and fourth year. An honors degree is really about adding a bit of research to the program. It involves the completion of an honors project or a thesis and additional courses. So the requirements are a little higher than that for a standard degree, but you get to put the amazing H after your degree name. This can be actually an advantage if you want to go on to graduate school. And I say that because we kind of force you to do a project, or especially most of the students do a thesis that involves some original research on your part, and writing it up in a thorough way, an explanatory way. Many graduate schools, master's degrees, or even PhDs, a thesis is part of that. And one huge advantage in doing an honors thesis is that when you go to one of those programs, you've already done one. So when it comes around for the time to do one, you sort of know how to do this. And as I said, it's a real advantage if you go to graduate school, because you're taking more courses and you have this research component. The next slide, if we switch it, there we go. Many of our students choose to do double majors, and some of you already signed up for double majors. I was just checking as I saw the names come in. Many of our students do this, and this just really means taking additional courses in some other subject area, so that you wind up at the end with not only a specialized degree in math and stats, but also with a specialization in another field. This can be really good if you're looking for, if you like mathematics, you like applying mathematics to other kinds of problems. It can also be really, really good when you're out job hunting afterward, because you have this specialization in another field. So we have a couple of different ways you can do double major. We have several degrees in our calendar that are named double majors, these defined double majors I have in the middle of the screen here. As you can see, you can do math with essentially engineering, you can do math with business, math comp sci, math economics, math music, and math education. The math business stream is the one that includes those of you who are thinking of actuarial science, and a couple of you who I've spoken with or emailed with have mentioned that. That is really the path here to follow, because it allows you to get the right business finance courses that help match and the economics courses that match the VEE accreditation from the Society of Actuaries, and also help prepare for the exams. Math with education is the program Jensen's in. That's a specialized 5-year program that combines both degrees. So normally the Bachelor of Science and a student doing an education degree, certainly in Nova Scotia, requires a 4-year Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts degree, along with 2 years of B.Ed. So it's 6 years of study. This program essentially takes the first year of the B.Ed program, and you do that as part of your undergrad degree. So you really, you're doing 5 full years of study, not 6, and it comes out with both degrees. For these defined double majors and others, and as I said at the bottom here in the slide, you can create your own variation. If somebody walks in the door and says, I really like math, but I really like biology too, you can combine those and do a double major in those 2 things. It's not that hard. The only thing we have to do is plan courses around the 2 different disciplines. All of these programs, even though it looks like a lot of choices, the core, as I said earlier, the core courses you would do in math and stats in first year and second year are the same. So this is why I said you really can't go wrong, because all these programs have the same core. It's not that hard to switch. What differentiates these various programs in this list is that in first year, in second year, and so on, you're also putting into your timetable courses in these other disciplines. So as an example, if you're doing math and computer science, you would do your math required courses in first year. You'd also do the required computer science courses. It's 2 courses in first year. And that lets you continue into that program in second year without missing a beat. Math with business, math with economics are similar. Both of those include courses in economics, accounting, and I should point this out too, that it's quite possible, and often when I talk to students, they're not sure about these programs. I might want to do this one, but I might want to do that one. I'm not certain. It's often possible to set up students so that you can go into different directions. So at least one student here who I spoke with by video, hi Helen, we've set the courses up, and technically by taking a couple of business courses in accounting and intro business, a couple of economics courses, and a couple of computer science courses, with that selection, it's possible to go on into the math, either stay just in math or continue in math with business or in math with computer science. Now, in terms of the program, there's also some additional options. If we could just switch the slide, that can be done during the degree. All of our programs allow the co-op option. And so co-op is something, and if you find you get into Acadia and you're thinking that, doing a degree in, say, math and stats, and then you'd like to work and not really go off to graduate school and things like that, and you're not going into education, co-op is a really good idea. This is not something you deal with in first year. It's something you apply at the very start of second year, in the September of the second year. I think the deadline is usually something like October 1st. But what you do then after second year is, during the degree, there's 3 work terms. Usually 2 of them are summers and 1 of them is a term during the academic year. That's what makes it co-op. And you actually go out and work in industry. And we have a co-op office that does a fantastic job of helping students connect with different kinds of positions and opportunities. And those are paid jobs. So you're essentially getting a lot of on-the-job training, learning how to work in an office or in an industry. And the co-op terms ramp up, but they are paid positions. So that helps to pay through school too. There's also study abroad. Now, we haven't had many students in math and stats do that. We've had a few. We had one a couple of years ago who went to France for a year. And we had another one who went to Germany. This allows you to go and study for a term or 2 in another country at another university that participates in the program. It can be a really interesting thing if you really want that kind of experience, but it's not for everybody. Scholarships, I just sort of wanted to put a little word in here about scholarships. We have a number of scholarships in math and stats, a number of named scholarships that we offer. Most of those are available to students in years 2, 3, and 4. And the way we work with those is every summer we sit down and we look at students. who are finishing first year or second year or third year, and we review those students to award these additional scholarships. And they can vary. Some of that depends on our endowment and the size of it, but this can be a nice source of additional money as you go through into future years. And I'll say more about other sources of money in a little bit. Now, if we can flip to the next slide, the most common question I get from students who are still thinking about things is, what's first year like? Of course, because you're starting in first year. And as I said, there's a core of courses in math and stats, and we tend, if you've applied here and been accepted to Acadia, and there's at least a couple of you on here, we put you in these courses automatically, so you don't have to do this. But in the there's 2 math courses that are required, and 2 in the fall term, 2 in the winter term. The other courses that you add in are either electives or they're built around the things that you're wanting to do. I mentioned computer programming here because we have a non-math program requirement that can be done in other years. It doesn't have to be done in the first year if you don't want to do it. It can be nice to get out of the way in first year. If you're thinking of going on into co-op, doing a programming course can be an asset when you actually apply for positions, because you have a little bit of programming background that can be useful to companies. As I said a minute ago, how you choose these additional courses beyond first year really depends on which of the programs you're interested in, and which ones you want to keep, either which ones you want to be in or which ones you want to keep as options. I've given a couple of examples here. If you're thinking about the math education 5-year program, then part of your first year really needs to include, should include, I mean, it's not impossible if not, it just makes it harder. But one of the math education program is designed to create an environment where you can become a secondary school math teacher. And the standard for people to teach high school is to have 2 teaching areas, and math would be the main one, but you also need a second teachable or second teaching area, and that consists of 6 courses in some other acceptable discipline. So one of the considerations that has to come in if this is a program interests you is taking a couple of courses toward that second teaching area. It's not that you have to do them in first year, and some students will change their mind. We have one student who's currently in 3rd year in the program, and she started in with one idea. I think it was French she thought would be a second teachable, and after first year decided to pick something else, and we've been able to make that work. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Students who are doing math business, there are specific additional first year business and economics courses that should be done. And again, I always recommend for those students that they do some computer programming in first year. Again, because math with business is a really, really good combination with co-op. And I've given the example of Math Comp Sci as well. Same kind of idea. You do the intro Comp Sci courses as a couple of your first year courses. And this just means that when you get to the end of first year, you can continue in these other areas without any kind of issue. Now, at the very bottom there, I've got a note, and I really want to emphasize this. We assign everybody when they're coming in a faculty advisor. So most of you, if you've applied to Math and Stats at Acadia, if you've been accepted, you should have received an email from me, really just trying to connect and have this kind of conversation. We have these conversations throughout your program. So you'll be assigned a faculty advisor. You'll meet with that person and work with them, if not every term, at least once a year, to talk about your progress, what courses you need, and so forth, so we make sure that you have the best advice possible, and you're not, what we don't want is for you to misunderstand something, make some mistaken choices, and then we have to figure it out later. This always works better if we've had some discussion about this. So expect when you arrive at Acadia that you'll be assigned a faculty advisor. That person might change over the year, and you can always come and talk to me too. Next up is just a note about the years 2 and 3. Year 2 is kind of similar to first year, although it starts to break out. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet, in the sort of field of mathematics, there's I mean, it's not quite true, but there's essentially 3 kinds of streams here. So there's an applied math stream, which is about using math to solve problems, essentially using calculus. If you've taken a bit of calculus, then you've seen some of this. If you haven't, it's fine. But it's about modeling situations using functions, essentially. There's another stream, which is a theoretical stream. And there's a third stream that really delves into probability and statistics and the idea of using statistical methods to study problems. In second year, we force some core courses on you in each of these areas. It's not a big force. It's a couple of courses in applied mathematics, a course in advanced calculus, and a course in what's called differential equations. There's a couple of courses at the bottom of that list, a course in probability and a course in statistics in second year, and then one theoretical math course, which builds on one of the courses from first year. After that, and then in second year, you would also add other courses based on, if you're doing a double major, though there's courses in the other discipline have to be done. If you're not doing that, you start being able to add in more electives here. In third and fourth year, most of the programs, there's a lot of choice here now about which courses you take. Okay, there are some programs that specify some courses that must be taken, but there's not a lot of that. So we offer in the department multiple courses in each of these streams every year. And frankly, most students come through, some students come through and they love all of it. Most students are mortal and they come in and there's some of these areas they actually enjoy and other areas that they just do not want to take again. And so the nice thing is that we offer enough courses that you can generally avoid having to take things unless they're required for a specific program. I hope that makes some sense. So what it means is in second year, you usually develop a relationship with these different areas. Let's put it that way. And so some of them you'll probably like and they're fun and they're enjoyable. Some of them you might be I don't know. And then you just don't take as many of those courses in your senior levels. Or if you, I mean, sometimes it's not as much not liking as much really liking. So if you find one area that you really like, you can take a whole bunch of courses in that area. And I'll point, and later on, Matt will be talking. Matt will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of his courses in third and fourth year were in statistics. He took a lot of them, and that's because that was decided to be his area. Yeah, okay. Next, just a quick note about what's different at Acadia. I know some of you have looked at, or maybe looking at other universities, other programs. One of the things that differentiates Acadia is that we have a fairly strong program for our size, certainly for the size of the university. Our graduates generally, when they're leaving, are competitive with students from larger schools for jobs and even for placements in other graduate programs. And it's really because our focus is on undergrads here. We don't have PhD students. We do have a small master's level program, but it's really, most of our focus is on the undergraduate students. And what that means is, and I emphasize this a lot with students or even with parents, if you want to tell your parents, one of the things that comes up over and over again is things like getting references from professors and for other opportunities. And our professors tend to know their students very well, which differentiates things because when I can write a reference letter for a student and I can talk about specific things that impressed me, that says a lot more than, well, this student was in my class and they got a B, you know, along with their other 200 students in the class. The other thing that's strong at Acadia and differentiates is the access to various kinds of opportunities. And I'll talk a bit more of these in a minute, but because our focus is on undergraduates, because we don't have all these graduate students kicking around, there are opportunities to do various things, like being a teaching assistant, and which is a paid position in the department. Doing research opportunities. We have students regularly at the end of first year, second year, third year who work in the department over the summer on research projects with professors. That's something that at many larger universities really doesn't happen for a lot of students. The 5-year integrated BSc BEd program, I think, is something I do want to emphasize if anybody here is thinking about teaching. This is the only one in the province, the only one in the region, as far as I know, in that it focuses, 5 years. That means 5 years of tuition, and in 5 years you have both degrees and can go teach. Anywhere else, it's 6 years, or it's 4 year plus 2 years worth of education. We have a strong Math and STELS Help Center in the department. This is something that's good for you in first year because you can go in and get questions answered. And the biggest thing you're going to find in first year, I think, is the need to just ask people stuff because there's stuff that's not making sense. The prof is going, the material's coming at you a little faster, or maybe things just aren't quite there yet. This is a really good place to go get help. And we regularly hire our undergrads in second, third, and fourth year to TA in that center, to tutor in there. So it's also a source of income later. And we have quite a good active math society. It's a club run by our majors, and they organize lots of social events throughout the year. It's a really good way, by the way. I always recommend people join the math society because it really is a good way to meet students in second, third, and fourth year. I can tell you all kinds of information when you come in and see me in my office, but if you want to really get the lowdown on things, you ask the students who've been through the courses, who've been through these various things. Just to flesh these things out slightly, these 3 opportunities here, and we have, and then I want to talk a bit about alumni. We regularly hire our majors to be teaching assistants. We also hire students from outside of math and stats, often because we don't get enough of and we can't cover all the positions with math and stats majors. This means one of 3 things. It either involves being a tutor in the Math and Stats Help Center. It can mean assisting in one of our actual labs, which means you help the instructor with helping students during the lab. So a lab is something where I get this question a lot. What's a lab? It's actually a setting where we can work on various longer problems. Basically, it's a setting where you go in and you have problems to work on. Sometimes it's some Q&A when you have, given some problems to work on and taking them up. But as you're working on the problems, there's usually, in many of the labs, there's an assistant, there's an instructor walking around trying to help. There's also a teaching assistant in there with them, and these are paid positions where we hire undergrads to do this, and also assisting professors with their courses, often with marking. These are paid positions. It's not a lot of time in the week, but it is something that both pays and also is a good, I think it's a nice resume line. If you're creating a resume to apply for a graduate school, say, or for a job, it does shows the person looking at your resume that we trusted you and had faith in you to do this. I mentioned research assistants a few minutes ago. We hire students all the time to work in the summer. They're full-time. They tend to be full-time summer jobs. Occasionally somebody decides they only want a half-time job or something, but normally full-time. And so these are opportunities that can come up while you're studying at Acadia. And we also have a number of outreach experiences that can be participated in by students. We've been active over the last maybe 14 years or so, going out to local middle schools and working with students, having on-campus events for high school students, and even putting on summer camps for students. We are always looking for people to participate in this. Sometimes it's volunteering. Sometimes we have funding to turn it into paid work. But either way, there's an opportunity there if it's something that interests you. I want to put up a chart here for a minute, just to show you. I think it's on the next slide here. Where our recent alumni in the last bunch of years have gone. And this, let me say at the top here, this is approximate. I did a survey a few weeks ago trying to figure out where a lot of our alumni had gone because somebody asked. And I knew where a lot of them had gone, but I had to hunt some down. So this is not a complete listing of where our alumni went, but it's mostly to give you an idea of, I think I've found about 130 of them, and this is where these are the kinds of fields they were. So the two big ones that you can see here on the right are education. There's a lot of our students who come through the program and then get their BEd and go out and teach. And the other one, and I mean, I had the same number when I actually ran this, were groups that had wound up, or students who'd wound up in the fields of finance and actuarial science. And so it's a mix of those two. They have similar backgrounds. The actuarial group tends to be the ones who've written the exams, but there's a lot of other positions in finance that people have gone into. On the left, you see some of the other fields that people have gone from our program into. And I should point out here, these are not, some students will bounce between these. So although I have at the very bottom on the left here, academics and research, that means students who've gone on to do research positions at other universities or higher degrees like PhDs. Some of our students will go and do further degrees after they're in Acadia, and then after they've done that, go into one of these other fields. So it's a real mix here in terms of students going, or alumni going between these areas. Just above that, the green area is data science and statistics. We have a long track record of students going into these kind of fields. This one might surprise some. Health and law, the orange one. We've had a number of students over the years going to med school or law school after they do their math degree. It turns out that math actually is very good for the logical reasoning portion of certainly the MCAT and the LSAT, but also, when you're analyzing patients, having spent a lot of time analyzing and thinking logically about things is actually a pretty good skill. Information tech, these are people who've gone and are more in computer science kinds of fields. The other industry is kind of a grab bag because otherwise there are going to be a whole lot of little wedges here. We have some students who are in industry. A subcategory of this that's actually worth pointing out is a number of people who've gone in industry where they're doing climate science research. That includes modeling tidal power. It includes other kinds of climate science. But there's other industries too. We've had some people who've gone into gaming industries and things like that, where it turns out you can use your math and stats skills for good things there. The next slide has a few examples. These are just some examples of the people who went through our program, and it doesn't include the people on the call. Oh, it does include Matt. I didn't think we did. Over on the left, you'll see a few students a few alumni who've gone into stats and data science. That includes Matt, and includes a couple of students who would have been here when Matt was here, Jonathan and Brandon. Under actuarial science, you'll see there's actually a much longer list than this. Erica Keynes was in the news. She was in the news 2 weeks ago, maybe. She's the person, if you happen to be in Nova Scotia and read the newspaper, she works in New York and had some kind of pizza delivered from Nova Scotia for some reason. And she took a lot of heat from the New Yorkers who think that they own the pizza franchise in the world. On the right, there's a few couple of examples of people who've gone through our program and are now in health or law. And then underneath that, I mentioned the climate science and modeling. Here's an example of 4 people who've gone through our programs and are now working in various places on climate science. So Megan finished our program and almost immediately went to get her master's degree at MIT in Boston, and she's still there working on climate science. Yeah, okay, so now we're going to move to, I think, a little bit of Q&A. I'd like to get Jensen and Matt to talk a little bit. So I have a list of questions here, which I've given them. So this is going to be sort of the fake Q&A version of the talk. And after we're done this, at the end, there'll be a chance, if any of you have questions, ask your own questions of any of us, including Matt and Jensen. So Jensen and Matt have already introduced themselves. And maybe I could just get each of you to answer the first question here about why you actually chose Acadia to come to do math and stats at Acadia. Jensen, do you want to start?
Sure. So as you know, I said earlier that I was in the math and education program. Right from the get-go out of high school, I knew that I wanted to teach. So as I was in grade 12 searching different universities around Nova Scotia, I wanted to stay around home. I realized, as Dr. Hooper said earlier, that Acadia was the only university in the area to do the 5-year program, which meant that that would cut off a year of me paying for tuition and other university costs. So I really enjoyed that, as well as when I was there visiting, it gave you the nice small town Wolfville feel. I knew about the small class sizes, which of course means you get the more one-on-one time with professors. You can get to know everybody in your program and really work together with everybody there. So that's why I chose Acadia for math.
Perfect. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, so when I was deciding where to go study after high school, I didn't really have a great idea of what I wanted to do. I know I liked math, and actually it was actuarial science was kind of my hunch at the time. And so, Acadia has a lot of, the math department specifically has a lot of support for the actuarial track. But also, the whole math department in general just offered a lot of options. And as someone who wasn't completely certain what I actually wanted to do, it was nice to kind of have that ability to pivot and try out other things and make decisions kind of as I go. And just to second what Jensen said, just being able to go to a small university, but with a relatively impressive math department for its size was really appealing to me, like the small class sizes and just more interaction, direct interaction with the professors and faculty.
That's great. So let me stick with you for a minute, Matt. What was your favorite aspect about the program you took? Now, you did the Bachelor of Science honors degree and focused on statistics. So what was your favorite aspect about the program?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I really enjoyed have been stuff you alluded to already. So one of the top things to me was I did research after my second, third, and even my fourth year. I stayed on and did a little research. And so I was able to work directly with 2 of the statistics professors there. And that led to my honors thesis, as you alluded to. And it was just a really cool opportunity to kind of get that experience and to be able to learn a lot outside of the classroom, just, being able to work full time throughout the summer and do this own independently driven research. It was just it was a great experience to really learn and kind of branch out outside of just what you learned in the classroom.
Jensen, what about you?
So of course my favorite aspect was that of course I got a year shorter on my studies, but I also with having a lot of the same things that Matt has said and you've said earlier, but with having smaller class sizes and knowing your teachers and knowing the people in your class. For example, if you're in a really large classroom at a different university and maybe the teacher said something and you didn't hear it, you're probably not going to raise your hand in a class of 300 students and ask for clarification on things. But I've been in, or many and most of my classes at Acadia have been maybe 10 people in the room, 12 people, 20 people. So there's a lot of talking and discussion and being able to clarify and work as a class at Acadia too in the math program.
And being able to annoy people like me when I'm trying to teach, right?
Of course.
So I'll ask you this question, although it's I don't know if it's quite fair. So Jensen, you're from Truro originally,
Yes.
and Matt from Antigonish. Um, what would you tell people's life is like it, especially I mean, some people on this list are from different, some are from Nova Scotia, but what here on the webinar, some aren't. Some are from other areas of Canada. Some are from outside Canada. So, um, how would you tell them about life at Acadia or even in Wolfville?
Okay, I'll start,
Start
I
with you.
guess. So it's a very small town feel. There's a lot of cute little shops down the hill. Wolfville and Acadia is kind of built on a hill with most of the buildings and the university itself near the bottom of the hill, and that's where all the shops are. But there's a lot of residences and apartment buildings that a lot of students live on the top of the hill. So all the cute little shops, there's coffee shops, but there's also a Subway and a Tim Hortons. They're down at the bottom of the hill, and there's a lot of trees, a lot of green. It's really beautiful. The buildings are very pretty too. Some of them are brick with like vines covering them. Yeah. Matt, did you want to say anything more? Let you finish.
Yeah,
it.
I'll say Wolfville and Acadia basically have like everything you need on a regular basis in Wolfville, Acadia. So, groceries, restaurants, gyms, whatever you have it. And then, it's not the type of place though where you're going out to a different bar every weekend because there's only a couple in Wolfville. But at the same time, you have a lot of other towns and areas within a short drive of Wolfville. So it's not like you're only isolated to this one place and there's nothing around you. And the other thing I'll add is just having been able to spend a couple summers in Wolfville. If some of you do end up going to Acadia and you get a chance to spend a summer in Wolfville, it's a really fun opportunity. There's it's already a small town. A lot of the students are gone, and it's even this tighter knit community feel.
Yeah, okay. So Jensen, I'm going to stick with you for this one because the next one I want to ask Matt a bit more. If you go back in time to first year, how did you find the experience in first year, and are there things you would have liked to know at the start? There's a lot of students here who are going to be starting in first year and could probably use some advice on this.
Yeah, so in my first year, there's actually a lot of things that I would like to give advice on, but I feel that there was some things too that I did well or I made a good decision on and I would recommend to doing. So I guess first I want to talk about that. Obviously, I went from high school right into my first year, and I want you to know that you are not the only ones that are going to be sitting there struggling and thinking that it is a hard transition, but mostly everyone there is going through it too. So with that, I would recommend that earlier than I started doing, you should go to your teacher's office hours, ask questions in class, take notes. But also, one thing that I did that helped is I took advantage of the different resources. So I went to MASH, which is what Dr. Hooper was talking about earlier, where it's generally the older upper year students who are helping, tutoring at the MASH Center. So I went there frequently. I'm going to say almost every night of the weekdays. But the thing is that you don't have to go there just because you have a specific math problem or question. I went there to work on my assignments just quietly in a good setting. And then if a question arises or you get stuck, you're already where you need to be to have somebody to answer that question. There's not going to be a whole lot of searching or then having to pack up all your stuff to run down the hill to MASH before it closes. You're already there. So that was really helpful, as well as it's a really good idea to make friends with the people in your program, because I think in a math degree, having a good solid group of friends to study and work together with, to learn and teach from each other is great, because maybe you're not always going to learn everything perfect 100% from your professor in class. So when you have a group of friends to talk and discuss it, it makes it a lot easier and quicker to learn to collaborate too. Now, don't cheat, but you know, you can learn and teach from each other.
Thanks, Jensen. So this one I'm going to aim at you, Matt, because you've had more time. I mean, Jensen's now been graduated for what, 3 weeks? It's a little hard for her to answer this, but you did go on to grad studies at SFU and your current position. How did Acadia and studying at Acadia prepare you for that?
Yeah, so I mean, as we both already touched on, I had the opportunity to do honors at Acadia, which involved independent research and writing a thesis, and those two things were huge in going on to graduate studies in the sense that I was some of the other people in my cohort had never done research before when they arrived at SFU, and they had never really written out a long report on math, basically. And so having been through that already, I was really easy, it was a really easy transition for me to just kind of continue on doing research, which is much more of a focus when you go to grad school. And the courses at Acadia also really prepared me. Like Jeff mentioned, I took, I think, basically every statistics course that there is to take at Acadia. And so by the time I made it to grad school, I had a really broad understanding of a lot of the concepts that were being taught and expanded upon in getting that master's degree. And then in terms of my current position, it was really great how Acadia kind of has you branch out into these different areas. So, the most obvious example is when I went to Acadia, I didn't even know that I wanted to do statistics. And then through, the required statistics courses and interacting with the professors and other students, Acadia kind of helped me to discover that was the path I wanted to go down. And then the other thing I'll touch on is, that required computer programming course that seems so small and insignificant. When I started at Acadia, I besides not knowing that I wanted to do statistics, I didn't really know much at all about what was involved in programming. And so, but I had to take this course as part of the math program, and ended up really enjoying it. And that's a lot of what I do today is it's focused on programming. There's a lot of my job that is statistics focused, but another big portion of it is actually writing code and running models and that sort of thing. And so just having that broad experience really helped to kind of steer the direction for my career path.
Can I ask you a quick follow-up question? So one of the courses that I didn't mention earlier, as I wasn't going into this much detail, but I will now, did you happen to take the consulting course?
I did.
So just for those of you listening, we have a fourth year course, I guess it is. It can be taken in third or fourth year in statistical consulting. So people who are focusing on statistics, it's a course where, I'll let you describe it since you took it.
Sure. So basically, the course is about being a statistical consultant. So what it looks like is, you spend some of the course learning about, how to hold a meeting and meeting with clients and what exactly a statistical consultant does. And then a major part of the course is that you actually get a statistical project from an outside, industry partner, or someone comes in with a statistics problem that you, and in my case, when I was there, it was a small team of students in the class actually worked on and consulted with this external partner and delivered a result. And so it was a really great opportunity to just be able to go through that whole consulting process from start to end, because that's a major aspect of the statistics industry. Is there's a lot of consultant opportunities out there.
Yeah, and it's something that I always try to push our students who want to go natural science to take that course too, for that reason about building up the skills. One last question for each of you. It's the one at the bottom here. Jensen, can you give an example of the kind of undergraduate experience that had an impact on you when you were here? Well, sorry, you're still here, but when you were during your first 4 years, let's put it that way.
Yes. So I would say that I got involved over my 4 years. And that's something that I should have added on when you said, what would you recommend or give advice for your first year? It would be to get involved. So here at Acadia, I was part of the Math Society. So with that, I made a lot of friends in my department. I got to know the profs. I got to know the upper years. And with that, it kind of gives you just a better overall experience when you know everybody. And as well, you can collaborate with them and make friends with the people who you then do work with. And aside from the Math Society, Acadia has so many events and so many groups and clubs that you can join all the time. And I really recommend that people go out and really get the university experience, because if you don't do all these things, then you don't want to leave Acadia thinking that you didn't really have a fulfilled experience in university other than just coming and doing the work. So I think there's always club extravaganzas that people can go and sign up for clubs. And it's really great just to get out there and enjoy your university life. It's not all about the grades.
Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I actually had a similar thought to Jensen in that, getting involved in the Math Society and being able to interact. I guess I'll focus in on the interaction with upper year students. And so, when you start out in first year, you don't really know a lot of the options I have for it. Maybe you haven't really thought broadly about the different career paths you can go down. And the math department is really set up so that it's just one giant community between upper years, lower years, professors. Everyone's just kind of knows each other and gets involved with each other. And so the exposure to upper year students just helps a ton in just trying to decide, what kind of courses I want to take, like what outside the math department might be interesting, like what are these upper years who have more experience kind of like trending towards in terms of career paths. And so it just really broadens your exposure to a lot of these different things.
Excellent. Okay, thank you both. I'll turn it back to Sarah, I guess.
Awesome. That was great. I love hearing all of the alumni speak on their experiences, because every single person so far has said, get involved. So that's great to hear that from you folks as well. Just some future touch points. Again, you will have access to this webinar on our website at acadiau.ca within 24 to 48 hours. If you do have general questions and would like to meet with an enrollment advisor virtually, you can email acadia4u@acadiau.ca. And if you have more program-specific questions, you can reach out to Dr. Hooper at jeff.hooper@acadiau.ca. And now it's your guys' turn. So I would like to invite you all to this Q&A portion of the presentation. If you prefer to vocalize your question, you can type RH for raise hand and/or press the raise hand button if that is available to you. Or you can type your question in the chat box there. If you are having technical issues, feel free to reach out again, Acadia4u@acadiau.ca for any of your questions. And we're here to help. So this is a great time to ask questions, and don't be shy. We're here for you. So anyone for questions, it's all for you now. I have a question here from Mr. Singh. Sorry if I mispronounced the name, but can you explain what kind of subject Math 1613 and what kind of chapters are in Math 1613?
I can. It's Jeff here. The Math 1613 is a course that's it's a kind of a calculus course designed for business students. It's in some ways a less it doesn't go as far into the material as our regular calculus course does. So math majors, for instance, can't really take that course for credit. Business students and economics students will often take that course. After they take that course, they can take regular calculus if they so choose. But does that help? I mean, a lot of the stuff in there's a lot of work on algebra. There's a lot of work on solving systems of equations, linear equations especially, some optimization, and a little bit of calculus at the end.
That's great. Anyone else have any other questions there? Okay. As I said, feel free to email us or Jeff there. And we'll wrap it up for this session. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Oh, we have one more question. Can business students also attend MASH classes or help?
Yes, certainly. So we set up, as far as MASH goes, it's there to support students across our different courses. So we set up specific hours um, for instance, for that class. So if somebody's taking the main first year calculus, there are certain hours for that. People taking statistics courses, there's certain hours for that course. But there will be some specific hours set up for Math 1613.
Awesome. Those are great to take advantage of too. Which date international students should arrive for fall 2020? I would recommend, just because we are still figuring out some answers as far as what 2020 will look like, you can email that question to acadiaforyou.ca and we will get back to you as soon as we know. So keep an eye out for your email regarding anything for fall 2020. Are there any other general questions from anyone in the meeting still? Yes, my colleague there is just saying that you can also reach out to the manager of admissions, Liam Dutton. He can answer that question there for you as well. Okay, so that will conclude our Q&A session. Again, reach out to us at any time, as I have said previously. And thank you again, everyone, for attending. And I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you.